I think the long-term game is to be as professional as possible.
Margaret McDermott asks, what do you suggest for artists who don't have gallery representation and only have a home studio? My gut tells me people wouldn't want to go to someone else's home. Am I wrong?
No, and I saw there was a lot of dialogue around this post in question. The number one thing if you're having people to a home studio is safety. And, you know, if you don't know the person that is interested in seeing your art and you have a home studio, as we kind of dialogued online, it might be good for you to have a friend or a spouse or someone there with you, maybe not in the same room, but there if you need them. I'm certainly not an advocate of inviting people over that you don't know, and especially for women in the audience. You know, I had a gallery for a couple months before I opened my space in 2001. I had a very small bedroom, 1-bedroom apartment, and I turned one of the rooms into a gallery. And I remember after I had the second visitor come into the space, I realized it was a little awkward for me because it was a gallery presentation and it's not what I wanted. I think studios are a little bit different because you're making art in a particular space. But for me, I also realized that I would have to be careful in knowing who I'm inviting over, make sure someone was there with me. I think I'll go to studio visits in someone's apartment or their home, and there's a dialogue around making sure that the space looked professional, that you try to make it as professional as possible in the presentation of the art. And if there's a possibility of separating the home aspects or what feels like your home from the studio, I think that could be really important as well. It really depends. Like I had a client tell me that they did a home studio visit and the studio was a wreck and there was stuff everywhere and it was really disheveled, and they actually felt really turned off by the experience because the artwork looked horrible in that setting. So really it's the context of how you want people to see your art and putting it in its best light possible. And if your home studio isn't doing that, then I would really try to either save money and make a move to have a studio outside the home, or someone mentioned that they actually built a studio outside their home in a separate part of the house. So you kind of, I think the long-term game is to be as professional as possible, and also for some of you, be as concentrated as possible in your art making. And home offices and home studios are really popular, but the question is, can you really get the work done that you need to get done there? And secondly, how does it feel if you had a curator or a gallerist come over to potentially work with you and represent you? And is your art being shown in the best light possible, in the best way? And so it really depends on the particular home. And I would just start inviting people over that you're comfortable having over and start getting feedback. And, you know, maybe even after they have their visit with you, so you don't put them on the spot. Hey, I'm just testing out like what people think of coming over to see my work in my home studio. What did you think about the experience? Was it positive? How did the work look to you? Were there things that you think I could improve? Did anything bother you about it? So I think feedback's really important. I always get feedback from artists and clients who are on different things. So I think feedback is a good way to learn how your audience is experiencing your home studio.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense to just invite a couple friends over and just be like, hey, I'm going to be exhibiting and have a dry run, right? Like, and get some feedback.
And I think, you know, Pablo, the bigger conversation is for artists to ask is, well, why is my studio in my home? Is it like a location thing where it's convenient? Is it a financial thing where you can't afford to have a studio outside the home? Is it, do you have children that you're taking care of? Like, what are the logistics around the home studio? I think most artists dream of having a beautiful studio that's not in their, I mean, I say not in the home, maybe it's outside your house in the backyard. I think it's important to explore these things because some of the most professional artists that I've worked with and have dealt with have beautiful studios where they're actually really proud and excited to invite someone over. And if you have the curator of the Museum of Modern Art coming over, do you want them coming to your house and sitting on a couch, or do you want them in a studio with beautiful lighting looking at your art on a wall presented like it might be in a gallery? So I think it's important to understand what level you're trying to get to in the art world and to start having your situation, your routines, your habits, what you're attracting, the money you're making match what you're trying to do. I can't have a home gallery because this is not how I imagine the level of how I want to operate. I want clients coming in. I want people from the museums coming in. I want to give tours. I want to have groups of people in. I need more space. It needs to be, and my gallery even went through stages where I finally did a big renovation and I invested a lot of money into the space, and that elevated me to the next level. So really the question is, Margaret, like, what level do you want to get to? And the home studio could be just perfect for you, or maybe you're holding yourself back.